Okay, let's now start the conversation about the president's visit to Beijing, China. The first ever Asian state visit since he took office about a year ago. He will be focusing on existing and new infrastructure financing deals with the Chinese government. And if there's anything that the Chinese do really well and they financing across Africa, is being infrastructure. Railways, one of them. But if God, Nigeria has a China-Nigeria business relations, let's bring in the Chairman Technical Committee of the Trade Promotion Board at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He's an engineer from Ibanjoko. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for coming. Good. So let's get it started. You are interested in this visit?
Very, very, very interested.
Why are you interested?
Well, if you look at what the last administration had done, basically, mainly you find out it's for infrastructure. Power, rails, roads, agric, industrialization. That's what the government, that's what Nigeria needs at this time. Something that is going to create a massive creation of jobs. And this move in the sectors looked at, I think it will help the economy.
So much deals had been signed with the Chinese, billions and billions of dollars. How well has this relationship been, in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, for now, we haven't seen any impact. Well, I guess part of what he's supposed to do in this conference is also the workability of what the previous government signed. Because we're not seeing the rails, we're not seeing the locomotives, we're not seeing anything develop. So we believe after this meeting, we should have a clearer understanding of what it entails, or what has been done in the past, and what more should be done.
In your opinion, what should be the key areas of focus?
The key area should be infrastructure, because if our infrastructure grows, everything works. You find out, for instance, the textile industry used to employ about 600,000 people. Today, they have less than 20,000. You find out where you can really do massive labor is in construction, everything. We have major unemployment here. If those things come in, if it's infrastructure, the cost of labor in China, for instance, for textile industry is about 5 times Nigeria. So it's a lot cheaper here. Whereas for cost of power here is like 6-7 times more. So who wants to come in? If our power sector is working very well, if the rails are working, the roads are good, you can get things moving. The economy will kickstart itself.
From the broad economic point, yes, we're doing a bit of business with China, but if you look at the private sector seems to have moved on. Dangote Cement, for example, is in bed with the Sinoma. The Chinese are also part of the building of new airports, new facilities and others. So it's not really new business relations. So how about doing business with and in China for Nigeria?
Well, doing business and with, what I'll expect the government to do, mainly with the set funding, I'll expect more of a private-public sector arrangement, relationship. To doing business in Nigeria, I think the government has to do a lot. You find out the Chinese people always protect their people. You sign a contract with the Chinese man, if he doesn't deliver, you're never able to get the back part of it. They deliver wrong products to you, you're on your own. So I think the government has a lot to do with that. I also think we should more or less, they should look more at equipment, infrastructure, rather than wholesome. So they're going in for infrastructure. If they bring in all the steel, they bring in all the equipment, they bring in all the men, then there's nothing to gain. But we're talking of equipment and some materials, good. But I expect also that the government will make it a private sector-driven thing. They go for more or less a guarantee on funds and subvention, rather than the government itself awarding contracts and just strictly a government thing. How do you run it thereafter?
But that has been a practice, hasn't it?
Well,
to a large extent.
Up till now, yes, but we think it's a time for change. It's a government of change. We expect that things will change, such that the private sector will be one driving it, but the government will be a backer, more or less.
You're the chairman in charge of trade promotion at the LCC. I'm sure you've done a bit of that.
Sorry,
with your members in China.
I'm not the chairman. I'm only a member of a board.
Sorry about that. But anyway, if you're a member, you're there. So your members are involved.
Our members are involved, but maybe not so much. We really don't have too many cooperations with China. Chinese government, China, but they participate a lot in the trade fairs. They do a lot of businesses. But you find out that they're not coming in, most of them are not coming in to set up. It's more like a trading thing. Rather than, we should be moving more towards manufacturing. We should be moving to more towards locating businesses in Nigeria, rather than bringing in finished products.
Why is it that the Chinese are not interested in setting up here? Was it labor is cheap here and a few other things?
Labor is cheap. Power is not cheap. Logistics is more expensive. They're also creating jobs for the people. So it needs the government putting up more principles, standing our ground. They say, well, and what the Chinese people try to do more often is backward integration. They tell you, well, import first. Start importing. Then they convert that to, after a while, they say they'll come in and set up. But that hardly happens.
So we take imports from them, but they hardly come in and set up.
They hardly come in and set up.
But they have very heavy presence in the service industry, construction and others like that, which just allow them to bring in their people as well to do the job.
Which is
less Nigerians.
Well, which is where the Nigerian government has to stand its ground also. What do they do? You find out most of the Chinese companies, they are the big ones, construction, are government-backed. They're government-owned companies. They're subsidiaries of Chinese government, or subsidiaries of, so it's more or less government-owned. And what do? So they have all the funds, they're funding you, they have the infrastructure, the equipment and all. But maybe it's time to do more of local content or more defined rules. You're bringing equipment, fine. You want the funds, but 80% or 90% of our people have to be on this. That's the only way it's going to give a country mileage. If we make that error and we don't get mileage from it, then we're still where we are.
The Chinese would agree, perhaps they will agree if the president says, well, have more Nigerians on this, but they are looking for qualified manpower to lay the rail tracks and build the airports and bring it to nice quality finishing.
Well, at that stage, if we're ever going to go forward and going to grow, there has to be a slowdown process. We have to insist on what we want. Our people have to be trained on this job. Our people have to learn on this job. We believe, I expect in 5 years, well, maybe the first phase, you say, here, you bring in 60% of your men. As the project goes down, you decrease. Nigerians have to take over gradually. Anything short of that is a waste. That means they're just dumping the equipment, they're dumping their men, and we're not learning. If you look at, for instance, at the telecoms industry, everything was brought in. Nigeria should by now have a fully integrated galvanized industry. We should be producing all, but virtually all the masts, all the things were imported into Nigeria. We shouldn't make the same mistake this time. There has to be clear line, clear principles. In 12 months, in 14 months, how many Nigerians are you employing? Such that our people are employed, such that our companies are working, our industries are functioning properly again. Anything short of that, I guess we'll have lost.
Let's talk about doing business in China. Nigerians are all there importing. Are we doing business in China?
Not exactly, not too well. I tried to do business in China. What happens doing business in China, you find out it's a layer. You have the industries, but you have so many suppliers who have nothing. Most Nigerians are traders, only trade. They don't even get to the roots, to the back end. And so doing business in China is going into the factories the way we should be doing it. For now, we're trading. So fine. You also, a lot of people can complain about Chinese products. But no, China, they produce good products, very good products. But it depends, where are you buying from? At what stage are you buying? So I think we're doing business on the periphery, not so much.
We're trading, merchandising.
Merchandising. So
basically.
Basically.
So we don't have any Nigerian doing business in China, not trading with China.
Well, there are a few Nigerians doing business in China. There are a few Nigerians.
The Nigerian companies.
There are a few Nigerian companies, who have magic. Also realize in China, like here also, you can't strictly, you can't set up on your own most times. You need an alliance. And there's a lot of monitoring and guidance. But maybe that's where we have to learn. Unfortunately, well, we're in WTO, we're signing, we've held ourselves to a lot of things. But the Chinese produce virtually anything. And you find out, well, I've gone a number of times, they do a lot of funny things. You walk in there, they're producing the best for themselves. So they have an alliance with major designers and all that. But then the offshoots of it, they're selling their local markets. They're producing from the same places. They have laws that make them learn. So they'll be able to learn the ropes. And so they can produce for the best in the world and also produce for themselves, which is a pattern I think we should take also. You come in, we're producing for you. Nigerians are running it. It's a joint partnership. We're learning the process. And eventually we can take off and do for ourselves.
So you think the president should, this time around, discuss more with the Chinese on technical areas?
Oh, yes, a lot of technical areas. I think we need to do technicalities and more details in a way that becomes beneficial to us, so that they're not dumping the whole of China on us.
That's the question about balancing the trade balance. The trade balance has never been in our favor, never balances in our favor.
No, not up till now. We hope there's going to be a change based on this.
In terms of balancing trade, specifically, we've got to produce more. So what does that tell the president? Do you think there are new things? The president has been to Washington, he's been to a number of European countries, and what have you. Now this is the first time he's going to Asia. And you think there should be some learning curve for the president about Nigeria's industrial state?
I think so. I believe there should be. And I believe he's visiting those places he wants to visit. Shanghai Free Trade Zone, Guangzhou, will bring a lot of things. Unfortunately, as the president, he might not be able to go into the cottage industries and the smaller,
and the light
manufacturing, to see how simple. Because the difference between China and the Western world is the simplicity of production, the tenacity and the resilience of the people working. They do it so basic. You'll find out everything looks so simple by the time you're out, and you can look through the chain and see that it's copyable. And how you can really impact on our people.
In other words, do you think the president will be worried if he picks up a toothpick on his table in China and find out that it is exported to Nigeria and he is using his petrodollar to fund it?
I think come on again.
A toothpick?
Yes, sir.
And you say we import toothpicks from China, isn't it? Yes. So if the president finds a toothpick on his dinner table and finds out that it's imported from China, you think he should be worried now that it's in China and say, look, I don't want these toothpicks, we can make this in Nigeria?
I expect him to be worried in 12 months' time. He shouldn't be using anything Chinese, Britain, US, all should be produced there. And I think the major one is the fast tracking of that process. So maybe the first 3 months, my stay, first 12 months, this stage, the next 12 months, that. But I expect in 12 months' time, he shouldn't be using anything not made in Nigeria.
Well, what do you think we want to go, finally? We should go heavy duties or we'll go with light manufacturing?
Light manufacturing, so that you can employ a lot of people and then gradually progress to heavy duty.
With your toothpicks and matchboxes and
tires, rollers, bearings, little other things that make major components. And we can do light manufacturing, so you have a lot of, for every major manufacturing, there's a lot of light manufacturing come together. So we'll go on the lighter side.
And they go for the heavy heating later.
And then we do
heavy duty.
Durable
goods. Thank you. We appreciate your time. We thank you very much for making time early Monday to be here. Engineer Tunde Banjoko, who is a member Lagos Chamber of Commerce, the Trade Promotion Board.